Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Muhammad Abdullah Leem. On behalf of Islamic City, I welcome you to this 15th Juz reflection with Dr. Aslam Abdullah. Dr. Aslam Abdullah, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Before we continue, I just wanted to make a brief announcement. One of our colleagues here at Islamic City, Brother Aji, his father passed away yesterday. So Brother Aji works behind the scenes. He does all of our recordings that we are doing here during these daily reflections. He's our system administrator. So our thoughts and prayers and our duas are with Brother Aji. And if Dr. Aslam can do a dua for him, inshallah, before we start.
Thank you very much. Let's all pray. Allahumma aghfir hayyina wa mayyitina wa shahidina wa ghaibina wa saghirina wa kabirina wa zakarina wa usana. Allahumma man ahyaytahu minna fa ahyahu al-Islam wa man tawaffaytahu minna wa tawaffahu al-iman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask you to bless the departed soul and give endurance to the family and the strength to endure this loss. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask you to accept the departed soul and give them the best place in your paradise among all those people who have been accepted by you. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Thank you, Dr. Aslam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أحمده وأصلي على رسوله الكريم. Today we are on the 15th juz, and so quickly the 14 days have passed that we didn't even notice that we have almost finished half of Ramadan. And even though we were all locked down in our homes. But before I go to the chapter or the Juz 15th, which comprises of the entire Surah of Surah Al-Isra, which is also called Surah Bani Israel, which is the 17th one, and 63 or 68 verses from Surah Al-Kahf, which is the 18th one, I want to focus on one of the verses that we yesterday could not cover for whatever reason. And it is verse 68 of chapter 16, which is Surah Nahl. And it is also a very revolutionary ayah in the theology of religions, not just Islam, but in the theology of religion. Because it is, in fact, a game changer in the religious thoughts and religious ideas. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse is saying, وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given revelation to Nahl. And I will focus on this one because then the rest of the ayahs, the details that it dwells in mountains, and it goes to these trees, and then and then produces honey. That is a detail. But what is this wahi, and what is this revelation to a bee? Because usually we associate wahi with human beings, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives wahi to human beings. But this particular verse is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given wahi to Nahl. And by giving the example of Nahl, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that He has given wahi to each and every object, each and every of His creation in this universe. So the stones have the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Water has the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sun has the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The moon has the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it mean? It means that they are programmed according to the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such manner they would fulfill the task that has been assigned to them. The only exception is human being who has been given a spoken and written wahi with the choice either to accept or to reject. That choice has not been given to sun or moon. The sun can never say, I'm tired today and I'm not going to come out. And the Nahal cannot say that, I have produced enough of honey. I'm not going to produce it anymore. They are continuously doing what they have been programmed to do. That this is their role, this is their purpose, and they have no choice but to follow. But the human beings are given that choice. They have the capacity to produce, they have the capacity to change, they have the capacity to do whatever, provided they make the right choice. It is a revolutionary idea in the religious thought because until then, it was only in the context of human beings that the Wahi was taught. It was only in the context of the saving of the human beings. It was only in the context of changing the human conditions that the Wahi was being referred to by almost one that we receive through angels, Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, through the messengers of Allah. And throughout the history, it is the written and the spoken words, which are substantiated by the actions of the prophets. And the second one is the Wahi that is spread all over the universe. And that's why we are asked to respect each and every creation, because each and every creation runs on the basis of the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, some people reach to this concept, but they started worshiping those things. They started worshiping trees, they started worshiping moon, they started worshiping rivers, they started worshiping oceans without realizing that all of them are subject to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's way. So this is the point that I wanted to focus on, which somehow was missed yesterday. Uh, Today we are on 15th juz and Surah Al-Isra and Surah Al-Kahf, part of Surah Al-Kahf. It include this one. Surah Al-Isra talks about the moral and spiritual principles. It emphasizes that the human beings always need divine guidance. Without the guidance, human beings are capable of committing evil and can find themselves in misery. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks human beings to have good relations with each other and live in a society based on the principle of faith, justice, and morality. And the surah also talks about the evils of pride and arrogance and urges human beings to reflect on Allah's signs and humble before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every sense of the term. Surah Al-Kahf reflects Allah's signs and tells that the mushrikeen of Mecca have been asking questions about certain events, and then Quran explains them. In the surah, we hear the stories of the people of the cave, the man who had two gardeners, and and they were very, and one of them was very proud of himself. And then also the Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and his encounter with a holy man who is referred to as Khidr alayhi salatu wasalam, even though the Quran does not mention the name, who is a paragon of knowledge and patience. And it also talks about the time and space. And so this is for the two surahs in general. Talk about Isra or Suratul Bani Israel refers to the journey of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Jerusalem from Mecca, and it tells the people that they have been acting in a very hasteful manner throughout human history. It talks about the rewards and punishments, for the people throughout the centuries. It talks about the moral and spiritual principles that are emphasized, and it says that it gives a moral code. In fact, 14 major issues that human beings should take care of themselves, and we will come to that in detail. It again reemphasizes on Tawheed. It also reminds people that the pride is part of satanic thinking, and it says that each one of us will be brought on the day of judgment and will be questioned for whatever we have done and we have said, and whatever we have been writing through our own deeds would be put before us, and we would be reading that, and our destination would be determined on that basis. And then it also throws a challenge to the people to bring any scriptures like that of the Quran, and it says that the arguments that the non-believers are giving against Islam and against the Quran are not valid, and should not be ungrateful to them. It's to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it also says that the wealth and children and the family are primarily trial for people, and many people are lost. In terms of focusing those things, ignoring the real purpose of life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again reminds people of His mercy upon all. And then it also touches upon the relationship of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam with this holy person. So we will cover the story of the people of the cave and Musa alayhi salatu wasalam's encounter with Khidr alayhi salatu wasalam tomorrow. Today we would focus on Bani Israel's and some other issues that are mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf. What the surah begins with Subhanallazi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina innahu huwa as-sami'ul basir. That glorified is the one who took his servant one night from Mecca or Masjid al-Haram to Masjid al-Aqsa, to the furthest mosque. Even though there was no such place that could have been called by mosque, because mosque is associated with Islam, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referred to what the third temple, the place where the Jews and Christians were worshipping, as Masjid al-Aqsa, is a place to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to prostrate before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why this detour? Why didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take the Prophet directly to heaven? Why this detour? Is it to acknowledge Bani Israel? Is it to acknowledge Jerusalem? Or it is something else? If you look at the context of this verse and look at the Linuriyahu min ayatina, so that we could show the sign, it says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is communicating the message that Islam is not an isolated phenomena only for Arabs or only in Arabia. It has a universal outreach. And by linking with the most known and sacred place at that particular time that was adored by monotheists, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to develop an alliance of people who believe in the oneness of God and work towards achieving the unity and the progress on that basis. It is that alliance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to create among the people of monotheistic ideas and among those who believe in the oneness of God. It was not to outdo others, it was not to replace others, it was to reinforce the idea of the universality of Islam and Islamic message. So that is one very important message that comes from this particular surah and this particular ayah, that Islam is a universal phenomena. And this particular verse is a testimony of that universality of Islam. The next one is 17:7. And it says, إِنْ أَحْسَنْتُمْ أَحْسَنْتُمْ لِأَنفُسِكُمْ وَإِنْ أَسَأْتُمْ فَلَهَا. That if you do good, that good would be for you. And if you are doing anything evil, then you are the one who would suffer the consequences. In fact, the same message appears in the verse 15 of the same surah in a different manner. Can you bring that also verse 17 the verses 15 or 17, which says, "Man ahtada fa innama yahtadi li nafsi, wa man dalla fa innama yadillu alayha." That وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. That whosoever is getting the guidance or he's guided is in fact that guidance is for his own self and poor sake. And whosoever goes astray is in fact is going astray for himself. He is the one who is causing it. And no one will carry the burden of the other. And no people are destroyed unless the messengers have been placed, have been given to them, have been brought among them to warn them of what basically has they have been doing wrong. In other words, the the end of the people, the deviation are first warned by the people who know about it, and then if people are still stuck, then they face the consequences. I don't have to bring, the present condition all the time to explain it, but we see it very clearly in our world today in the context of this coronavirus. The countries that took heed of the warnings, and there were many countries that took heed of the warning, they minimized its impact on their societies. And the countries like ours that ridicule this idea of a pandemic, that basically did not take it seriously, are now paying a heavy price because of that. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا, that we do not hold people accountable in terms of putting them into a punishable situation unless we warn them. It is not only in terms of the divine guidance, but the in larger sense also, because everything that exists in this universe, physical world, is based on the divine guidance. And it is the responsibility of those believers to ensure that they understand this divine universe and keep on informing each other of the consequences of doing things that would hurt this environment. So if anyone is telling us that there are uh, global warming, there is this issue of environmental deterioration and destruction, then obviously this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has inspired people to do research in it. And it is very important that we ourselves are responsible for the wrong, we ourselves are responsible for the right. Allah has given us the guidance. That guidance is for all humanity. That guidance is not based. Now, why should we accept the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Anyone can give us guidance because it is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gives a guidance that is in the best interests of all human beings, not just Muslims, not just people who say that they follow the guidance of Allah. It is for each and every one, and it is that neutral stand that the Quran takes, that the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is important for each and every human being. And what is that guidance? Very simple guidance: justice, equality, humanity, taking care of each other, not exploiting, not misusing the resources of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how we can do that. And the verse that we would focus on next, verse 23 onward, I think it goes until 37, focuses on that. So we will just take that particular verse, because the rest you can look into the subsequent verses until 37. But it says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ لَا تَعْبُدُ إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. The most important thing is that you believe in the oneness of God. Because only when you have that conceptual clarity, you would not be able to go astray and find solutions to your issues and your problems through other directions, because people might mislead you, might act on the basis of their interests, might try to glorify them, might try to put their interest and their community's interest and their ethnicity's interests above the human interests. So you focus on the oneness of God. And after that, be grateful and show respect to your parents. Why? Because they are the one who caused you to be what you are. They are the one who took care of you at a time when there was no one to take care of you. I mean, look at society is 100 or 200 years ago, when there were no social securities, there were no social welfare states, where people were living in tribal areas and where people were constantly fighting against each other for the bread, for everything, for the parents who would ensure the safety, who would ensure the growth, who would ensure the nurturing, who would ensure proper training of the children. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that you have to be respectful to them in every sense of the term, honoring them. And none of your actions should ever cause them any hurt in any sense of the term. Not only through your actions, but through your words also. And words also in the sense that even a slight expression that might be negative is hurtful. And indeed, the people who we are close with, when they do anything hurtful to us, we feel very bad about that. Imagine the parents who have been with children, who have raised them, if they see children doing and saying anything that is even psychologically hurtful, how detrimental it would be for their health and for their society. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that this psychological and this emotional hurt is also it's more dangerous than the actual death, because in actual death you die once. But in this emotional and this spiritual and psychological death, you die every day. Because this is what the Quran is alluding, that none of your actions should ever be a, in a manner that it would be hurtful to them. After the parents, it says that you have to be concerned about your relatives, that you have to be concerned about the destitute, you have to be concerned about those people who are helpless and who are travelers and who are refugees. And then it says that do not squander your wealth. It also says that you should be polite when you talk to the people. It also says that don't be stingy. It also says that do not overspend. It also says that do not deprive, others of your resources. It also says that take care of your children, them of their happiness, and do not even kill them. And it says that keep their childhood ideas in mind, and let them grow in that particular measure. It says that do not go close to illegitimate and illicit uh, conjugal relationship or sexual relationship. It also says that human life is sacred and do not even kill the human life. It says that do not devour the wealth of those people who are helpless, who are orphans, who have no one to take care of them. And it's also says that fulfill your pledges. So you would see there are 14 such principles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And it says that when you have those kind of principles, you indeed would be able to do good to yourself, and the belief in one God and oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would bring meaning to you. And then one important thing in this particular discussion of the do's and don'ts for the believers, for those who believe in God, is a very powerful verse which says that وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ Rasulah, that do not believe anything that is not empirically proved, and use your sight, your mind, and your power of analysis to verify things. It's a verse that gives incentive to explore everything and to be truthful in every sense of the term. So let's go to the next one, which is again a game changer, which is a verse that you will not find in any other scriptures, which is a verse which defines the very purpose of human beings and the faith of Islam, which is a verse which is telling human beings how to relate with each other. And what does that verse says? It is verse 70 of chapter 17. It says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ وَالْبَرِّ وَرَزَقْنَاهُم مِّنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ and وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِّمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا. That all human beings, not just Muslims, not just Arabs, not just Persians, not just white, not just yellow, all have been given a right to live a dignified. All have been given the right to move wherever they want to move in this universe. وَحَمَلْنَاهُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَارْزُقْنَا مِنَ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. And all have been given access to the sources of sustenance from whatever good exists in this universe. And all of them have been given privilege over the other creations, all human beings, not just one. And if you just take this particular verse and analyze human history, you would find that the crisis, the fight, the conflicts, the wars, the crisis, everything that exists in this universe happens because وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ has been forgotten, that we have given dignity to the children of Adam. People are there to prove their superiority of leaders. People are there on the to prove that they are better than others on the basis of their status, on the basis of their wealth, on the basis of their knowledge, on the basis of their health, everything. And they do not hesitate to kill others. They do not hesitate to forces the people to live on the margins of human society. This is the verse that defines Islam. This is the verse that we have ignored and we have forgotten. We emphasize too much about everything else, but وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Look at in our own communities. And ask yourself honestly a simple question. When was the understanding of the Quran, and where was the understanding of Quran in our relationship vis-a-vis with women and with people whom we considered away from our ethnic groups and ethnicity? When was the time? Did we show any respect? Look at the history. And ask this question, what does dignity means? Does dignity mean that you overlord and overpower others and you reduce them to a non-entity? Or does dignity mean that you give them full freedom and full autonomy to act on the basis of their understanding of the divine guidance in the Constitution? We have to ask this question, because when we look at the Quran, we cannot simply look at it in the context of the a particular segment of society or a particular period of history. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا human beings, whether they were in the past or in. If you believe in God, if you don't believe, then that's your prerogative. We have curtailed their movement. We have deprived them of their risk. 1.6 billion people live without risk in our world. God did not. He created the resources. He gave us the mind to explore those resources and use those resources. But we are the one who have been depriving human beings with that dignity. And then when we talk of the dignity, we often talk of dignity in terms of our geographical entities. An American has more privileges and more rights than a non-American, vis-a-vis, and many other things within their own community. A white has more privilege over the non-white. A person who has gone to a particular institution has more privilege than them. All those issues. And this is where the Quran is challenging the Muslim mind, challenging the believers that if you truly believe, devote yourself to the dignity of human beings in every sense of the term. Next one is uh, 1829, but before we go, one, 1829, I think that is وَقُلِ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. This again is the verse that saying that faith cannot be a coercive institution, that faith cannot be imposed. Truth is there. It is up to you to either accept this truth, and it is up to you to deny that truth. And those who basically are the ones who deny the truth will suffer the consequences of that. What other religious freedom we are talking about? What other autonomy that we are talking about? Why then Islam is being projected and presented as a totalitarian religion, as a religion that imposes its will? No, it does not. Islam explains the truth, invites people to understand the truth, and then gives them the opportunity to decide on their own. And it does not say that if they reject the truth, they will be punished. It simply says that they will face the consequences of their actions. In other words, they will bring the hurt themselves. If I'm being told that there is a fire being burned in that particular area, and anyone who would pass through that area would suffocate and die, and I use that freedom to go into that fire and suffocate myself, I cannot hold fire responsible. I cannot hold anyone else responsible for my action. That's my me. So it is in this particular context that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about all these issues. So once again, there are few verses in the Quran that in this particular part they deserve, but the most important one is وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Keep that in mind all the time in your relationship with others, in your behavior with others, in your dealing with other communities, in your dealing with other people, other societies, that they deserve dignity. And if we can contribute to enhance their dignity, to embellish their dignity, indeed we would be serving the divine cause. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Aslam. So some additional verses I was wondering if you could reflect on. This first one is 17:4. The translation is, we declare to the children of Israel in the scripture, twice you will spread corruption in the land and become highly arrogant. So would you please explain some of the history behind this and how we should look at this verse?
It refers to the Old Testament and the deviations of certain sections of the Jewish community in terms of, or the Bani Israel, in terms of the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran specifically mentions two things, that once when they inadvertently succumb to the temptation to idol worshiping, and the Quran refers to that also. when they escaped from Egypt. And when Musa والسلام, was on Mount Sinai, in his absence, they started worshipping a calf or a cow or an object. So that was one corruption. Then, and the corruption divine mandate, because it begins, the Ten Commandments begin with the thou shall not worship anyone other than God. So that is one thing. The second thing, that when they split themselves into sections and into factions and they started fighting each other and they started killing each other, that they destroyed the unity, that they destroyed the essence of the faith itself. So it is in reference to that that they caused corruption within their own religious thoughts and religious ideas, and that led to corruption in other places in other parts, and they suffered the consequences for that. As after this fight, they were captivated, and after this things, then they remained uh, in bewilderment for almost 40 days and things like that. So it is in that particular context that verse is talking.
So, how do we look at this in the overall discussion, where sometimes people accuse the Quran of being anti-Semitic with verses like this?
Quran is not talking about Judaism. Quran is talking about the behavior of people who claim that they were part of Jews. The same way as we are critical of the the transgressions of Muslims, as the Quran also says that there would be people who would take this Quran as invalid. There would be people who will violate. There would be people who would go against the dictates of the Quran. Does it mean that the Quran is anti-Islamic? No. What Quran is saying is giving a historical reference to things that happened and that have been acknowledged by the Old Testament themselves. And often, one of the problems that I've noticed in the interfaith dialogue and interfaith discussion, that neither Jews nor Christians nor Muslims are fully aware of their own scriptures. They are selective. Or even if they are aware, they are selective. They do not see verses and the commandments in the overall context of their scriptures. So the Quran is never being critical of Judaism. Quran is critical of the Jewish attitude of the elites of the Jews, certain sections of the elites of the Jews, in terms of their interpretation and their understanding of the Torah.
Yes. So, yeah, of course, I mean, our belief is that this is the word of God, and God would be totally just, and
Yes.
He criticizes everyone equally, wherever it is deserving, basically. Then,
Yes, I mean, he is pointing out those actions in human history that created issues and problems for the communities as well as for others.
right?
So
Okay,
that we could
so
learn, that we don't repeat those things.
right. So, and I think you already covered this one, but we did not show this ayah, I think. So this is ayah 36. Yeah.
Yes. ولا تقف ما ليس لك به علم إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا. This again is a revolutionary word saying that go and explore. Use your mind, your intellect, your observation to determine the empiricism of things.
Yes. This, I mean, it can't be any more clearer than this, that we should not be blind. It's asking us to use our ears, eyes, and heart. And heart,
Yeah,
that's where your sincerity comes from, your heart, right? So along with all of our physical.
Yeah, but what unfortunately had happened is that people, and our scholars, many, have used this particular verse only in the moral and ethical sense, that it deals only with not looking at anything that is bad or not saying anything that is hurtful. But it is beyond that. and not listening to anything that is beyond that. Saying that anything that is there in this universe is based on the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Understand that way. Do not accept things because you might be misled. And in that exploration, use your observation. You listen to others and use your rationality and the power of analysis.
Right.
This is where this verse is leading us, and you are right that it is against the blind follower.
And of course, this goes along with one of our previous verses that we discussed, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to reflect and reason, those
Indeed,
specific
indeed,
verses, right?
indeed.
Yeah. Okay. So then the next verse is Surah 1771.
Mhm.
On the day when we summon each community along with its leader, those who are given their record in their right hand and will read it with pleasure, but no one will be wronged in the least. So here Allah is saying that, you know, He will summon community along with its leader. Does that refer to the Prophet or does it refer to something else?
Well, it certainly does not refer to the prophets. Because if it refers to the prophet, then all prophets were guided, and the followers of all prophets would claim that we were following. What it refers to are the people who had taken the scholars, who had taken the clergy, who had taken the others as their leaders,
Mhm.
as the one who. So if I do not go directly to the Quran to understand it, rather I understand the Quran through a sect, through a partisan group, I would be in that community.
Mhm.
If uh, and that also goes with Christianity, that also goes with Judaism, that also goes with Hinduism. And then what would happen is those who have properly understood that religion and those who have properly understood the divine guidance will be the one who would be in a different category, and those who have wrongly interpreted and wrongly understood, they would be. So the Quran is alluding that both the followers and the leaders would be held accountable for what is being done.
Okay, excellent. Then the last verse I wanted to discuss with you is Surah 1782. We send down the Quran as a healing and a mercy to those who believe. As for those who disbelieve, it only increases their loss.
Yes. So essentially, what the Quran is saying that that refer to a specific group of people who live in a specific period of time. It refers to all those who believe in the divine mercy, divine guidance, divine justice. Though, and what does that belief mean? That they would follow those things. And what would they follow? They would give dignity to human beings. They would stand for justice. They would stand for exploration. They would not be the blind followers. So when they have all those things, they would definitely succeed. And it would provide them shifa, it would cure them, it would heal them, it would help them grow, warahma, and it would help them progress. And if you disbelieve, then it would be your own loss. So the
Right.
Quran, it is not saying that, by simply reading the Quran and by simply believing that it is the final word of God, you would heal yourself. It says, وَنُنَزِّلُ, whatever have been revealed in this Quran, means the ayahs, the guidance. And it is in that context that the Quran is referring to the Quran.
Right. So I was also reflecting on verses that have the predetermined outcomes associated with them, that God only guides whom he wills. But here, God is saying that, really, it's up to us to believe.
Yeah, you see, what I also explain is further that the God guides whom He wills does not mean that He decides that some people should be non-believers and some should be believers. What He is saying essentially that when He has created a formula, the same way as a compounder prepares a formula for coughing, and if you take the formula in the manner in which He has prescribed, then you would benefit from it. If you dilute it, if you know overdose it, if you mix it with something else, or don't take it, and you would not get the results of that. And this is precisely what the Quran is saying, that I have given this you formula.
Okay,
If you want to
excellent.
take it, take it.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Dr. Aslam. So before we end, I wanted to remind everyone that today is a super moon. So those of you who are listening live, please go out and see the moon. It's supposed to be one of the largest moons that we will see in recent astronomy. And then also, again, I'd like to wish condolences and our dua of maghfirah for Brother Aji as a father. And may Allah give all of his family the patience to bear this loss. Losing a parent is not easy. And Aji was not able to be with his father when he passed away, and it is more painful that way. But our thoughts and prayers are with him. So, inshallah, we can conclude with prayers, Dr. Aslam.
And then tomorrow we also have the khutbah at 1:30.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, we will have live khutbah with Dr. Aslam at 1:30. If you go to Islamicity, just search for live khutbah and you'll see the link there. And we hope to see all of you at our Jummah khutbah, inshallah.
Thank you very much. Let us recite Surah Al-Fatiha, and because we will be praying for the deceased as well. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Ar-Rahman Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the departed soul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give sabr to brother Aji and his family, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate the darajat of the deceased brother. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun al mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.